Greene County Historical Society, Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. This beautiful museum helps encapsulate the local history and true meaning of what it took to settle and live in Greene County, Pennsylvania. However, this emotionally powerful building was once home to quite an eclectic population of residents and a span of reputation in its own right, stemming from a farmhouse that turned into a poor farm and ranged up to an iteration of an elderly residence. Ever since its closure, the county's historical society has dedicated the building's existence to preserving the history through items from daily life displays to the ornate period exhibits of parlor rooms, bedrooms, poorhouse cells, chapel, and even a period-based cabin. Overall, the building is history alone, but having this amount of history physically preserved speaks volumes regarding the historical society and their love and care for the community in which they are so passionate about. The past. This original structure was a simple brick farmhouse constructed in 1857 for the landowners, the Reinhardt family. Stylized by the popularity of the period of the Georgian Revival, the farmhouse sat on the center of the property and acted as a home residence for the family's farm. In 1861, when the Civil War struck the nation, the Reinhardt family sold the land and building to Robinson Downey, who then sold the parcel to Greene County. The state legislature, passed right before the war struck, made every county establish living quarters and sanctuary for the poor residents in what they considered indignant at the time. Because of this law, the county was forced to redesign the home and property into the poorhouse as per requirements. The Greene County Home, or Almshouse, or Poor Farm, was born. With this, there was an initial expansion of the two-story wing constructed to house anywhere between 40 to 50 inmates in resident rooms and a large kitchen. Following this addition, the original Reinhardt house was used as a residence for the head officiant and their family. During this initial period of the Greene County home's existence, and lasting 23 years up until 1884, the function of this poor farm exceeded its original expectation of the poor and incompetent to the insane, including the criminally insane. By this point, the Dixmont State Hospital was fully functional, and those deemed insane were transferred to this more secure and appropriate location. As was the norm for state-run facilities at the time, the poorhouse saw serious overcrowding issues and even inhumane conditions. With this, the facility gained an unfortunate reputation for these conditions, and the county attempted to remedy this by adding a 3-story west wing in 1886. Every floor was built to facilitate 12 residential suites, each complete with a full bathroom. Even with this addition of 36 rooms, the building once again became overcrowded and deemed unhealthy, which led to the final addition in 1890, with large kitchens and an attached bakery and preparation area behind the house, to renovation of the interior areas to accompany even more inmates, as they became known, and housing up to 6,000 of them throughout its lifespan. As time moved on and left this type of building and occupation lesser known and more or less unused, by the mid-1900s, the actual date is unknown, the county transitioned this facility into an elderly home rather than a poor farm. With the occupational transformation, the building took on a new, less ominous name of Green Hills Farm. This building was in operation serving older and indignant residents until 1969, when the building was deemed unfit to operate safely. Those who remained there were moved into a new facility across the street, the Curry Home. That same year, the Greene County Historical Society had grown and was looking for an upgrade from their former home of the Long Building. The Historical Society was originally set to construct a new building, but those plans ultimately fell by the wayside. The newly unoccupied Green Hills Farm was perfectly timed, almost as if fate had been set. The county was then approached by the Historical Society to utilize the former poor farm as a new site for the society to operate, beginning with the creation of a library in 1970. As the location attracted more guests, the Historical Society began to feel like a true piece of history had been made, as they allowed themselves to go down in time as the owners who saved the beautiful old architecture and historical value, while growing their artifact collection. Renovations continued, and in 1971 the main museum was opened to the public. What is owned and operated today is an ever-expanding and currently 30,000 pieces artifact collection from over 13,000 years ago up until the present day. The Greene County Historical Society, located inside this 52-room main museum, as well as the other buildings and even grounds, have been utilized to help build and facilitate this collection. Inside the museum are historically accurate bedrooms dating from the original settlers up until the 19th century. The Victorian-era parlor rooms are a main attraction and have salvaged handcrafted artifacts that date to the particular time frame in Greene County. Throughout the building, a combination of World War I and World War II historical pieces are featured, including everything up to an old machine gun. Another step back in time shows off the impressive jumps in time and knowledge in the doctor's office, which shows the advancement of medical tools, medications, and equipment. The basement features cells that truly show the horrible conditions inmates lived in long ago, and attract those from all walks of life to pay their respects to those who have passed away in a more realistic and understanding fashion. The outer building showcases the library and the former boiler house, 2 renovated log cabins, a smokehouse, an old-fashioned sawmill, and even a railway housing the engine number 4 of the Waynesburg and Washington Railroad. The chapel resides on the grounds and features period-appropriate altars, pews, and a stained glass window replica. The print shop also shows off an impressive leap through time, housing old, yet still functioning print press equipment. The barn is also original to the grounds and is situated on the property, originally built out of a durable and seemingly everlasting hand-hewn logs in an intricate mortise and tenon joint style construction. Paranormal experiences. The sheer size of this building can be overwhelming to some visitors, but combined with the artifacts, some actually excavated and donated from the building's most occupied days of the poor farm, seem to bring a certain electricity encapsulating the building. Many who visit simply step onto the property with a sensation of stepping back in time, which can be a great historical learning tool. Others who visit feel a physical incarnation of this whirlwind of energy surrounding them, even in this first moment. Visitors aren't the only ones to report these strange emotions. Volunteers and staff have claimed that there's something just not right about some things, leaving them as clearly unexplainable. Footsteps and banging noises have been heard echoing out of rooms and down hallways. Some have even occurred in locked-up rooms and entire floors. Certain smells have been said to linger in the empty buildings, awfully reminiscent of a sterile hospital, which have been reported by many of these volunteers, particularly those who can pinpoint this scent from former medical occupations. Beyond these sensations, one seems to stand above all of them, and that's the shadow figure, which is said to be seen from time to time in some of the inmate rooms, as well as wandering about the hallways as if without purpose. Even though not just one reason seems to stand out for this phenomenon, there have been a plethora of tragedies tied to the former poorhouse, specifically early on in the poor farm's existence. There was a massive amount of violence, sometimes even leading to death. The melting pot of insanity with mentally handicapped and criminals, combined with the elderly, are all tied to horrible conclusions for both the victim and the offender. The offenders of any level of crime on the grounds were typically punished by being chained to the walls of the basement and being left there for days at a time. Even though this was a horrific and inhumane punishment, some of these inmates actually committed crimes to get away from the overcrowding and preferred to be locked up on their own in the basement. With all of these frightening actions and ongoing altercations, there can be no surprise that the majority of these incidents left scars on the building, and those which these altercations directly affected. As is stated to be a typical explanation of hauntings, these tragic events can be no doubt tied to the paranormal accounts occurring here. No names have been recorded, but the appearance of these anomalies in the inmate rooms and hallways lead many to believe that there is a direct link to these lost souls who died in such terrible circumstances and lived in these horrendous conditions. Paranormal investigation. After a seemingly successful paranormal investigation of the Greene County Historical Society Museum in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania, and an intensive review of everything captured from the night, we are confident in claiming that we encountered multiple high levels of energy in the form of intelligent and residual paranormal entities. With this conglomerate, we were able to positively conclude that the paranormal phenomena exist here in the former poor farm. We thoroughly believe the more paranormally active locations throughout Greene County Historical Society Museum include the Morning Art Room, the barbershop and its corridor, and the dungeon located in the basement. Following this phenomenal experience, both paranormally speaking, as well as the hospitality and respect shown to us by Janice of the Greene County Historical Society, we spent hours upon hours reviewing and analyzing our videos, recordings, and photographs. In addition to this, we documented our own personal experiences throughout the night, and any and all ways we attempted to debunk these strange occurrences. With the gathered evidence, a compilation of stories, and even attempts to disprove some of these phenomena, we can positively conclude that we experienced some supernatural forces, in particular, unexplained paranormal phenomena. The majority of these otherworldly energies tend to move freely through certain areas, but others seem bound to a particular room or wing. For the most part, these remnant energies and spirits are much more positively charged, and simply seem curious of the visitors. Others, in no way negative or dark, have a more protective and almost defensive posture in certain locations. We altered our perception of these more private spirits, as we first thought they were just shy, until the atmosphere physically changed, and we were told to leave them alone. There were 4 of us located in the morning art room during the first attempt, but as numbers dwindled, the unexplained activity seemed to increase. During the first interactions, we encountered a cat ball moving, as well as a squeaking noise, perhaps that of a cat's meow. This continued with the Ovilus, K2 meter, and flashlight activity as we attempted to decipher whether this was residual or intelligent energy. A cold handprint was seen through a thermal camera, as well as felt in person at the time, but this chill and visual evidence disappeared almost instantly. We never got any true, clear answer here, but as the investigative group swapped out and only 3 were left in this room, the flashlight began to answer more yes or no questions. But more than this, we heard knocks, and a crying noise coming from a different room. Following this moment, clear footsteps could be heard walking around outside. The group was confident that this was another investigator, but after going out to attempt to find the source of this sound, everyone was accounted for, and in different areas of the building. The source of the footsteps could not be positively identified. This prompted 2 out of the 3 investigators to follow these noises, where they ultimately heard more footsteps, as well as a heavy breathing around them. Resulting in what seemed to be a crossroads in our investigation, our group began to peel off in pairs as the majority of us felt that whoever was in the building with us was timid and did not like larger groups. Outside the barber shop was one particular area that drew us in, and even during our walkthrough, one of the investigators heard a whisper, although this was not captured in the video footage. Our time here started off quiet, so quiet in fact that we heard a soft whispering through our recorders, but this was not heard in person. Unfortunately, this whispering was indecipherable. We followed these moments by attempting to gather any potential intelligence and heard clear knocks, thuds, and shuffling of footsteps. With that, we opened up some verbal communication with the Phasma box to some astounding answers to questions. The flashlights helped tell us that there was only one of them here, and the Phasma box captured a name of Elizabeth. What is your name? It's possible that this was their name, but it's also possible that they were simply close to someone with this name. We were then welcomed into the barbershop room itself, even called by name and summoned with, "Come in." Can I come in? Okay. We noticed a pair of footprints standing next to one of the investigators through the thermal camera, but as we tried to move closer, even getting an initial permission of, "Do it slow,"
Can I come close to you?
Yes, hello.
we were eventually told to stop twice.
Tell me if I'm going too fast, okay?
There's nothing there. After we took a few still photographs, again with permission of, I guess, and yeah.
Can I take one more picture?
Have we taken too many pictures of you?
Yeah.
We were eventually told, no, don't do that.
One more.
After we opted to leave this first time, we offered to return and were asked to bring music.
Would you like us to come back later?
As we returned later in the night with music, this seemed to bring someone else with the name of George.
Are you in the room behind Derek?
At first, we played some random barbershop quartet music. However, this was not to their liking, as we were told not quite after we asked if they liked this song. Is this what you were hoping for? Oddly enough, the ovilus produced some random words that we took as perhaps a song, and in fact, "Class Happens Along" was indeed a song. After we asked if this was the song they wanted, we heard a confirmation of, yes, that'll work.
Is this more in line with the music you were talking about?
We explained that it was late and that we were getting tired and planning on leaving soon. To this, they agreed, as we heard, "It's late." I think he was about exhausted. This was followed by a question, as if asking why we were leaving, with a "but why?" We're gonna be calling it a night here soon. We cordially asked them if there was anything else they wanted to tell us and received a final gruff no. Is there anything else you want to tell us? This ended our time here. Down below in the basement, we had a revolving door. We started with a small group of only 2 people, but added more, ultimately resulting in less activity. At first, whoever was down in the basement with us, with the original pair of investigators, was actively using the K2 meters and REM pod to help yes or no questions. This included them telling us that they were by themselves down here and that they did not like it here. They also told us that they were always in the basement, while cold spots on the investigators coincided with the K2 meter activity. This also told us that they were moving close to the first duo, while this activity led to the entire team coming down here to attempt to make further contact and open up more communication lines. Even though the atmosphere had seemingly changed, we continued with an attempt at the Estes method, which did result in some verbal communication pointing us in the direction of more intelligence, telling us that we were crowding them with "move over."
Move over.
After a noise was heard, we reacted to it, but more so, further intelligence was heard after we asked if this was them, and heard "no" and "you," as if perhaps someone had accidentally made this noise, and realized this when we did not. As the flashlight shot on, we were told that there was a man here, and that they liked to speak to the women in the group. This was found out after we made our way around the room attempting to speak to them, and heard "no, you" when discussing his attraction to this investigator.
Joe, can you ask a question?
Are you down here?
No, you.
This time frame was cut short as our first investigator was touched, and he even thought that it was one of the group telling him to be done, but no one had moved. Astoundingly, right before this, the word "touch" was heard through the spirit box.
Touch.
After a break, nothing was heard once we switched listeners, so the initial listener went back into sense deprivation and actually heard an apology directed toward the former listener with a simple "sorry."
You like talking to Derek better? Sorry.
Finally, as we lacked much more communication, we were told to be done and to go.
Do you want us to leave you alone?
Naturally, with this, we obliged. All of this evidence, paired up with our personal experiences and communication, led us to our conclusion where we can state that there was definitive high levels of energy throughout these particular areas of the Greene County Historical Society Museum. Between the recorded evidence and personal experiences, we believe that there are a few different energies drawn to these areas of the old poor farm. This was possibly a male energy tied to the artwork inside the morning arts room or to the neighboring bedroom. Another childlike energy seemed to turn up in the basement, but he may have been mentally handicapped, and this may have actually been a grown man who only had the mindset of a child. He comes across as lonely and unhappy down here. Outside the barbershop and all around that corridor, there seem to be 2 energies more predominant than others. Whoever is here also seems to be curious about visitors and goes by 2 separate names of Elizabeth and George. Our intention of investigating this former poor farm turned museum is to document our experiences and findings to help continue others down these paths and utilize our information as a reference for future investigations or even help validate other experiences in the Greene County Historical Society Museum. Hopefully, others who have similar open mindsets can pick up some of these trails and continue to dig for answers and grow the everlasting legacy of this expanding county museum. With this in mind, the most important aspect of this property is to continue to tell the stories of the past and respect and honor those who have lived here, with hopes of never repeating some of these unfortunate events that occurred inside the walls of this former poor farm in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania.